mentioned I want to talk about sleep on the programme today. How did you sleep last night? Do you get enough sleep? Do you worry about sleep? On TikTok, there is a trend which suggests if you want to improve your sleep, the way to do it is to eat baby carrots before going to bed, specifically 7 baby carrots. Can that be right? There are all kinds of trends of things that you can do that supposedly will get you a better night's sleep. Some of them are sort of obviously sensible, calming down before going to bed. Some of them a bit more unlikely, like the carrots. What about dark showering? That's another thing a lot of people have been talking about online. Have a shower before bed, but turn the light off in the bathroom while you do it. We've got 2 sleep specialists to tell us more and answer your questions about how to get better sleep. Live on OS today, Dr. Lindsay Browning is a psychologist and neuroscientist. She runs the organisation Trouble Sleeping, which provides therapy to people struggling with sleep. Lindsay, hi, good to have you with us.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a great topic to talk about.
You're in the UK. In the US, we've got Dr. Chris Winter, neurologist and host of the Sleep Unplugged podcast. Hi, Chris.
Hey, how are you?
First question. I'm good, thank you very much. First question, Chris, to you. Does eating 7 baby carrots before going to bed make any difference to how you're going to sleep?
I don't think practically, no. I think where you find with things like 7 baby carrots or boiling lettuce leaves in your tea, it's belief. I mean, I think that a lot of, what underscores insomnia and sleep problems is anxiety and fear. And rather than really understanding sleep and getting good information about it, we look for simple cures, even if they seem absolutely absurd. And with TikTok and just the numbers of people on there, there's bound to be a small population of people who eat 7 baby carrots, not 5 or 9, which would be deadly.
Yes.
But 6.
You'll be awake for a week if you eat 9.
Something right, exactly. It's and we'll post something that I ate my carrots and I slept wonderfully last night. So sleep has a lot to do with belief and the way we sort of approach bed, and what we want to do with our patients is help them kind of create a confidence with sleep. And confidence starts with understanding how sleep works, and that if you're human and walking on this earth right now, you'll spend about 6 hours or more sleeping for every 24 you're on this planet, and there's nothing you could do to stop that fact.
Right. Lindsay, are you with Chris on the carrots, first of all? Let's put the carrots to bed. The carrots are not going to work, are they?
There's nothing going to make your sleep magically better. It's not going to harm you, probably, because carrots contain nutrients. It's just a fun thing that has got on TikTok because the number 7, it sounds very scientific. Wow, that's really interesting. And baby carrots, not just full-size carrots, it has to be baby carrots. The reality is, just like Chris was saying, it's about doing a similar thing before bed that's really psychologically going to make you feel ready for sleep, rather than there being anything particularly scientific about the goodness of 7 baby carrots.
But could the carrots be that thing? In other words, if sleep is so connected to ritual, which that speaks to me, I get that. Could the peeling of the carrots, the eating of the carrots, could that be a ritual that might actually help?
Absolutely. Anything you do regularly before bed can make your brain think, we always do this before we go to sleep. Like when we have a baby, we'll give them bath, milk, story, bed. We might use the same words, read the same story to the baby. There's nothing magical about, as much as I love it, the Gruffalo book, reading to your children before bed. But if you do it every night before bed, then you're yawning, the kids are yawning before they get into bed, because the Gruffalo makes them think about, sleep is coming. So eating 7 baby carrots, if that's part of your pre-sleep routine, helps you to focus that sleep is coming, I do this before sleep. It could definitely help you sleep a little bit better, but it's not the carrots that are the magical thing, it's the consistency.
The main thing we take away from that is good headlines go viral on TikTok, I think. I mean, that's interesting, though, because when my children were younger, we used to have a song, a particular song by the Spice Girls that we used to play, which we called the Sleepy Song, which was supposed to do that ritualistic thing of making everyone think, this is what happens just before we go to sleep. It works sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds great. I didn't hear about the Spice Girls sleepy song when my kids were little, but it sounds great.
We made it up. Chris, tell me about dark showering, because this is another of those things that goes viral because it sounds interesting and we've never thought of it and all that stuff. Is there anything having a shower before going to bed with the light off that's likely to promote good sleep?
Yeah, man, I think what we're getting at here are there are a lot of things that could set the stage for good sleep. You know, a Spice Girls song, we were more of a Depeche Mode before bed kind of a family, but, you know, whatever choice is yours. The choice of the song is not going to make somebody go to bed. The dark showering, light showering, not going to. But these are all kind of little, it's like if you were going to start running. Like it's probably a good idea to buy some running shoes and not work boots. Now, you can run in work boots, but you're sort of setting the stage for a better training session if you've got the right shoes and the right outfit to wear. And to me, sure, being in a dark environment before bed instead of a brightly lit bathroom right before you try to shut things down, sure, could be so helpful. But these are all just little set the stage kinds of things, meaning I could buy the best suit, the best shoes, and that doesn't make me at all competitive with a professional runner, even if I have their shoes. So these are all just sort of set the stage for the right thing, but sleep's gonna happen whether you shower in the dark or shower in a brightly lit situation and you're wearing your work boots in the shower. It doesn't really matter. So yes, all these things are great. What we have to be very careful of is we are using these things as a set the stage kind of situation and not as a treatment. None of these things are going to treat significant insomnia, despite what TikTok says. Do you know what I mean? So, like, let's do the right things and stretch before we exercise and wear the right shoes and maybe shower in the dark. But if you're really struggling with your sleep and you come across this TikTok about showering in the dark, it's not a solution. These are not treatments. They are sort of supplements to people who are already sleeping okay.
And just before we go to messages from our listeners, I'm picking up on you saying sleep is going to happen. You are going to sleep for 6 of each 24 hours you're alive. That's not enough sleep, though, necessarily is going to happen.
No, no, it's interesting when you actually look at people who struggle with sleep. They sleep a little bit more than the normal sleeper, the average healthy sleeper. So when I say 6, I'm just saying that when you actually look at the number of hours a typical adult needs to sleep, it's probably around 7. It's not 8. That's based upon flawed research of many, many years ago. So we're going to get the sleep that we need. Ask me, I've been doing this for 30 years. Ask me how many patients I've seen who are giving themselves time to sleep in bed and are not getting enough. It's like zero. The people I worry about are people who are working 2 jobs and are intentionally depriving themselves of sleep. People who say,
Yeah.
I get into bed at 9 o'clock and it takes me 9 hours to fall asleep, generally speaking, are sleeping much more than they think they are. So, sure, 6 is probably not the right number in terms of what we get, but it's impossible not to sleep. It doesn't exist in nature. It's
Let's
like breathing and drinking fluid and eating food, like we all do it. Now, sometimes we skip lunch. Do we take pills to make sure we don't skip lunch? No, we would skip lunch and think, I skipped lunch. I wasn't that hungry. And sleep kind of operates in the same way appetite does.
We've asked our listeners in countries around the world for their thoughts on sleep, their tips on sleeping better, their questions for you guys, Lindsay and Chris. We're going to start in Nigeria.
This is Biliamin from Oyo, Nigeria. In order to get a good night's sleep, I learned as far back as primary 6 that reading a book helps. So I read a book, a novel, particularly one that I have read before, not one I am just embarking on. And that way, while in the midst of it, I go off to sleep.
Lindsay, what do you think of the idea of not just reading a book, but specifically reading a book that you've read before so it holds no enormous surprise?
Yeah, so that's sort of like can work for some people, can not work. So the idea of reading a book you've read before, obviously it's familiar, it's easy, it's just going through the motions, calming you down. But when somebody has insomnia, like what Chris was talking about, when someone is really struggling with their sleep and they're very, very stressed and anxious, then actually reading a book intentionally boring, intentionally that you've already read before, that you might not be enjoying because you've read this story many times and you think, oh, I have to read this stupid book that I read before and I can't read my new thriller because I have to read this boring book to help me sleep. Actually, you might be making yourself more frustrated and anxious before bed. Actually, sometimes reading that latest novel, the new plot that engages you, makes you feel so absorbed in the story that you're not worrying about what you were doing earlier, what you've got to do tomorrow, and you're not worrying about, oh my goodness, how will I cope tomorrow if I don't sleep? Because you're just thinking about the story. So I would say reading a book before bed generally is a really great idea. If you find that reading the same book you've read before many times works for you, then great, no need to change. But if you find that actually a bit more of an engaging new book would actually help you to distract and relax and get ready for the relaxing night rather than thinking about your day, then that also can be very helpful.
Right, now onto the vexed issue of screens before bed. Here's Isaac.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Isaac from Nigeria. Normally, if I'm stressed or without stress, if I want to sleep, I'll just play music from my phone. Immediately, I'll fall asleep. Or if I'm watching a movie while it's time to sleep and the sleep is not forthcoming, I'll just watch something random like a documentary or be listening to news and I will fall asleep. And I want to know why is it, because sometimes if I sleep in the afternoon, I find it difficult to sleep at night.
So, a couple of questions to you, Chris. First of all, I think the general wisdom is leave the screens in a different room, don't have them anywhere near you while you're trying to fall asleep, and yet they work for Isaac.
I mean, I'm always kind of baffled by that sort of, 2 hours before you go to bed, no screens. Okay, well, do I just sit in the dark in my living room? Like, to me, like, again, a screen can be a perfectly reasonable part of your evening. I mean, you watch a little TV, something that's not too stressful, and cut it off and then go to bed. It's perfectly fine. Like this idea that if you have a screen in your bedroom, it's just, a disaster. I mean, it's not ideal. If somebody said, look, should I have one in my bedroom? Yeah, probably not, but you can fall asleep with the TV in your bedroom. It's kind of nice sometimes to unwind and watch an episode of The Office before you go to bed at night. So to me, it's not perfect, but again, sleep's going to happen. So we just want to sort of create a situation where we put sleep in its best possible position to do it, what's best for us. And so to me, I think it's not that big.
Okay, and in terms of the idea of afternoon naps, meaning you don't then sleep at night time, is that just because you just need less
I mean,
sleep?
that's the same thing as food. Like it's so funny that when I have my big snack an hour before dinner, I'm not that hungry for dinner. Well, of course not. Sleep is finite. We're going to average about 6.5 to 7 hours of sleep per 24 hours that we're alive. Now, you can divide that up in a bunch of different ways. You can sleep 7 hours from midnight to 7 a.m. That's fine. If you want to come home and take a 2-hour nap, which a lot of retired people do in the middle of the afternoon, go for it. But now you're down to 5 hours sleep need in the evening versus
Gotcha.
7.
Okay.
So we have to kind of allot for that. People think a lot of times that sleep in the afternoon is sort of bonus sleep. No, it counts against that total. So you just have to be kind of prepared for that.
Let's take another message.
Hello, I'm Patrick Chimeze from Nigeria. Before now, I can go to sleep even sitting beside a DJ speaker blasting with music. But right now, a whole lot have changed. I find it difficult to sleep, probably because I had a breakup with my girlfriend of 3 years. And I think it affected me a whole lot. And now I can barely sleep for more than 3 to 4 hours. My question is this: how do I improve in my sleep, going by what led to the disruption in my sleep?
So, Lindsay, there's obviously real stuff going on here. Is there a way you can get your sleep back on track when you've been through some kind of trauma?
So what we have to understand is if we've been through something major, like a breakup, like a burglary, like something bad's happened, you're not going to sleep the same way you did before that difficulty. Because basically, when we are asleep, we are very vulnerable. We could be attacked during our sleep. So if we feel that we're in threat, if there's something's going on, if we're very stressed, then we're going to wake up more easily because our body wants us to stay safe. Just like if we were in the wild when we were cavemen, if there were wild animals outside, we wouldn't want to sleep deeply sleep really solidly for 7-8 hours because we'd want to wake up through the night to check that we're all safe still. So if we are going through something stressful in our lives, we're likely to wake up more frequently, basically just to keep ourselves safe. So the reality is, cut yourself some slack. It's normal to not have the best quality sleep just after a breakup. Give yourself some time to recover, to deal with the breakup, do things that will help you to de-stress, maybe speak to somebody if you're really struggling with the breakup. And once you feel in a calmer, better place, your sleep is likely to return back to normal. But you don't need to push it. You don't need to stress yourself out. If you wake up for a little bit in the middle of the night, don't think, oh my goodness, I have to force myself to go back to sleep again. Just get up, go and read a little book for a little while, have a break, come back to bed, giving yourself that little break from the stress of not sleeping. And just accept that, just like Chris was saying, we are going to sleep. Sleep will happen. We don't need to force it. So just let sleep be how it's going to be. And if you're going through a difficult time, it's going to be a little bit more disruptive. But once you get better, once you get calmer, it'll go back to normal again. So you don't need to stress.
That is what I'm taking away from this chat. Sleep will happen, so don't stress about it. Lindsay, Chris, thank you so much. I could talk about this for hours, but I really appreciate your time. Lindsay Browning is a psychologist and neuroscientist in the UK. Chris Winter is a neurologist in the US. And thank you for all of your questions and messages on the subject of sleep. This is OS with Andrew Peach. You're listening to the BBC World Service.